about going to school, but what we don't realize is how lucky we are to be able to get an education. We could be here, working 14-hour days, making product after product, trying to keep our hands and arms intact, and most importantly, trying to keep our job. This was the fate of many children during the Industrial Revolution.
The Industrial Revolution of England was one of the most significant events in the creation of modern society. Not only was the revolution a time of great technological change, but also social change. Today we will be dealing with the concept of child labor associated with the Industrial Revolution. We will cover the sources of child labor, the conditions of Europe before, during, and after the revolution, the working conditions, and how child labor ended.
Due to the fertile ground, the agricultural system in England was rapidly advancing, and new inventions did those jobs in a fraction of the time. During the 1800s, the Industrial Revolution spread throughout Europe. As the machines were widespread, people moved into towns and cities in desperate need for work.
The use of steam-powered machines led to a massive increase in the number of factories. Factories required several workers and hence fulfilled these needs. However, due to the surplus of workers, management turned to hire people who would work for longer hours on a lower wage. These people were children. Factories wanted to hire children because the children could easily crawl under the machines and their fingers were rather supple and thin, which were better for precision tasks. But most importantly, they were cheap to hire.
There were plenty of children in orphanages and could easily be replaced if injured. Hence, children as young as 4 years of age worked hard hours for little to no pay. Parents were so desperate for money that they had no option but to send their kids to work.
In the early and mid stages of the Revolution, two common forms of child labor were established. 1. Parish apprentice children, and 2. Free labor children. Parish apprentice children were children who had been taken in by the government and placed in orphanages. Rich factory owners approached the parish leaders with the idea of them taking in the children and feeding, housing, and providing for those children in exchange for the children's work in their factories.
Free labor children were those who lived at home but worked during the days in factories at the insistence of their parents or guardians. Unlike the parish apprentice children, private factory owners could not forcibly subjugate free labor children, meaning that they could not compel them to work in conditions their parents found unacceptable, as was the case with several parish apprentice children.
As seen in the table, nearly half of the workers in the cotton factory started while they were under the age of 10. The 1841 British census reports that the textile industry employed almost 107,000 children, further suggesting that children accounted for a significant portion of the employees in the textile industry.
Some children, mostly boys, also worked in coal mines. One of their jobs at the mines included the trap job, where they had to sit all day in a hole and wait for the coal wagons to come. Others were coal bearers who carried loads of coal on their back. These children often died at the age of 25.
The working conditions were extremely dangerous. Some children fell asleep while working and fell into the machine. Later, they were found dead, lying on the ground.
Worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for the
Child labor soon became a popular social and political debate topic. Reformers such as Lord Shaftesbury campaigned for new laws to improve working conditions for children and give children the opportunity for schooling. The British government took steps to protect children from the harsh atmosphere by passing numerous acts. First came in 1819 with the Cotton Factories Regulation Act that regulated the minimum age of workers at 9 years old, and they could only work a maximum of 12 hours per day.
Next was the Factory Act of 1833, which protected all children, especially those of unskilled parents, and made it mandatory for the factory owner to provide an education for these children. Regulation of Child Labor Law of 1833 created government inspectors to oversee factories to ensure they were following child work guidelines. One of the final regulations that the British Parliament passed to regulate working conditions was the 10-Hour Bill of 1847, which limited the working day of women and children to 10 hours per day.
In 1870, the Parliament made it mandatory to have a school in every town and village, and by 1880, the law said that every child between the age of 5 to 10 must attend school in order to get a basic education. Today, all children are given the right for an education and are protected from the industrial world. However, there are several other places around the world such as India, Pakistan, Yemen, and China, and many countries in Africa where child labor is still prominent, and children are still forced to work in terrible conditions, which is proven to cause serious effects on their physical and mental health. Child labor needs to be abolished throughout the world in order to give children their right to an education and, more importantly, their childhood.
right through me. And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. The people run in circles, it's a very, very mad